Welcome to Now Hiring, a podcast about staffing, recruiting, and talent. I'm Scott Montminy, and I'm with our host today, Samir Panakalapati, the CEO of Ceipal, as well as Andy Weiss, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at that same company. But as you know by now, if you've tuned into some of our other episodes, this is not a podcast about our work days and about our company. This is about your workday and what you need to build your business or to thrive in your career in these industries and through these verticals. And what we've talked about in a couple of other episodes, which hopefully you've seen. If not, go back and check them out. One is called ACT, which is an acronym for getting your business in order. And going back a little further, we started the conversation on this journey, as Andy calls it, of building a high value staffing company. And we want to get it to that point of scale where you cross that $100 million barrier. And, and I guess maybe we could start with one question that I have, Samir. Why is it, it's a nice round number, but why is that the big number? Is that the dream? We all want to be a unicorn? Is $100 million when we know we really made it as a staffing company and or other business?
For an example, SIA tracks largest staffing businesses, privately owned staffing business in the U.S. The company is over 100 million. So that's one of the things that, I think it's a good measure to see that someone can able to scale the business over 100 million in revenue. And of course, 100 million in valuation may require even further along the way.
And Samir, I want to point out that you've actually done this. You've built an organization, a staffing organization that has done this. So,
yes.
So just
what was that moment like when you found, saw your organization, your company on that list?
Yeah, no, I think look, there wasn't only strategy, but there's a whole team behind build that business.
Of course.
And me being a very strategically advising the team to get far for that. But one of the things that I've been constantly preaching was that stay focused on the niche space, right? That business, the one I built was focused on aerospace defense sector. That business has 9 out of the 10 largest aerospace defense clients as their customers. And starting from 6 years ago. So having that focus on that, then, and that business team has built their expertise in knowing the type of roles that hires, the type of industry that goes into, the type of expansion the business beyond the United States, So it's really a global business. The aerospace defense has a global customer, global presence. And that was a pivotal moment for me. Okay, let's focus on that. Business has the facility clearance and all of that. So it's that's a key, right? The one thing that we strategically said is focus on that one sector.
So it takes team.
Yeah,
you have a great team. You got focus. You're focused in on a niche or a category of staffing.
Yeah.
But what else? And in another episode you shared with the ACT framework. But what else is it to clear that?
Yeah, the second thing was that to really create the value is ACT. That's why I came up with this acronym that I've been talking internally, that automation, compliance, taxes, right? Like set up. You take each one of that letter, automation, right? How deeply is the system get automated? How do you stay in compliance and set all the systems in place so that things get we have 7 to 10 different compliance things that needs to automate, and then obviously taxes. The businesses always be third party audited financials. So that's kind of thing. So I set the base in place. Like you have the niche area, you have the ACTs in place, and then go after and measuring the metrics intently, right? Then 3 things I always wants to focus on: the customer needs and the business impact. Like you constantly understand how, for in this case, like how the aerospace defense business operates. Is there any cyclicality with it? Is there any influence from external markets influencing on this sector?
So were you creating like feedback loops with your customers and clients to make sure that you had that input?
Yeah. And then you understand over time, you operate with these clients and you understand what's the cyclicality of it and what's the opportunities out there. how the other countries operating it, and these businesses do expand globally, then you follow them, being a good job, because that's customer focus takes you to, okay, hey, you know what, we have needs in the European countries, in South America, in India, in other places. So I think you follow them because they have, you provide an ultimate customer experience to these your clients. And again, like if you are building a product or service and thing, you be obsessed with it, right? Like you talk about it, and a lot of people don't, they think, sharing the information is, losing the, not have, sharing your secrets. I see it completely different way. Share your knowledge with the industry. You become a thought leader. You gain a more traction with it. So, and I'm just being obsessed with the industry. Like there's something that I always liked it. And then, really, you have that, genuine empathetic approach towards your employees, your back office teams, your customers, your clients, and your consultants, and those are kind of things. So it's really, it's a lot more science than people thought about building a 100 million business. It's a very methodical approach, right? If you follow these things, you could build it, and it's not easy. And as I said, like, I'm just reiterating my statement saying that this is as difficult as building a tech startup, pushing the business over 100 million, or even pushing higher to get to 100 million valuation.
Did you
Yeah.
did you feel like the business fundamentally changed once you crossed that threshold, or was it just a larger version of what you started?
No, it does change. Definitely, it does change. But then what happens is when you get to cross that bridge, then your focus on ACT becomes much more intense, right? Because you can perpetually keep adding people to grow the business. Then now you focus on automation, you focus on compliance, because it just becomes much more complicated. You focus on managing your taxes. That becomes the number one of it, because you build a customer base, you name a market for yourself in that stuff, in that industry segment. So now that becomes manageable. What becomes unmanageable is your automation, compliance, taxes. So that's a key.
Okay.
That becomes the number one. This becomes number two. But then all the other things you have to maintain.
So it's kind of like, in the early days, you've got you're growing, you're rolling up your sleeves, you're getting the work done. But at a certain point, if you don't have the systems and processes in place, you can only scale so much.
Yeah.
So taking a step back, putting in some framework like ACT now helps you kind of break through that threshold. And then as you get closer to that 100 million mark and making SIA's list, it kind of shifts where the process and the systems are kind of driving and helping guide you, and it's through that barrier on further and scaling, and that takes on more of the lion's share of your effort and system approach.
Yeah, and I have seen it in the industry too. Just the one point I want to say, having this in place, it's also you creating a high value for the business. Like for an example, smaller businesses generally trades around 2 to 4.5 times of EBITDA, adjusted EBITDA. But if you have a large business, like let's say 100 plus million, it would be anywhere from 6 to 12, 14%, 14 times of your adjusted EBITDA. The higher the EBITDA you would demand, or the business values, if you have the ACT in place. That's a key though. Driving that higher multiple requires automation. Guys, I cannot emphasize that. Automate your business, stay in compliance, and you would clean with the taxes. And if you have this in place, you would be valued much higher multiples than people ever realize. If you don't have ACT, it could be a lower spectrum of 6 to 7 times of EBITDA multiple. But if you have, you'd almost be out, over 10 times of EBITDA because having that. So ACT, when you grow the business, that's a number one priority. And then you maintain that, and also just being a niche player, you maintain a strong gross margins, right?
Gotcha.
And, if you don't have a gross margins, typically 14% at the minimum, it's tough, because you said, you're not a business that you could scale up. But generally, people also look into it, like if you have a 10 million adjusted EBITDA, it's like a gold.
At
Andy,
what point
do
do
we
you
need to-
decide to
do we
jump
need to
over to
carry this
another?
to another episode? I'm wondering,
Yeah,
because I want to
let's
say we're at
do
about
that.
10 minutes here. Okay, so well, with that, you can find the continuation of this conversation. And I should have known that with a topic that we thought we could get done in a few episodes, so rich as building a high value staffing company, no pun intended with the word rich. But I should have known that we'd have to go a few more episodes. Something tells me we'll never be done talking about this topic, but we will get to others as well. For right now, I'm going to invite you to find the continuation of this conversation in another episode. And be sure to share, like, subscribe, and do all those things. For now, we are now hiring.